Hello, everyone, and welcome to Co-Creation Station, the podcast where we talk about the law of attraction, the art of allowing, spiritual magic, the mind-body-spirit connection, and how to best enjoy this mystical, miraculous, mysterious, crazy, sometimes confounding, but always incredible journey we call life. My name is Collin. I'm a teacher, tarot oracle card reader, and I'm also a singer and guitarist in the rock band Red Treasure, and I'm located in beautiful, sunny North Hollywood, California.
Hello, everyone. My name is Stephanie Orlina. I am a transformational life coach, and I help people shift away from negative thinking, and I am in San Diego, California.
I'm just so looking forward to finding out what you demonstrate for us on the YouTube version today. How to do something. Anyway, we want to thank you so much for listening and watching. At this time, we're posting a brand new episode for you every single Monday morning. We really appreciate you doing whatever your platform allows you to do to support the podcast, liking us, following us, subscribing to us, leaving us a comment, writing us a review. We always like hearing from you, and we're grateful for your support, and all of that also helps other people find us, which is even better. Each week we start our discussion from a different jumping off point, and this week we're going to start off by talking about something that we sort of finished last week's episode. We kind of came around to this topic of the difference between inspired action that we do when we're feeling good and we feel like we're led to it by our higher self and we're in the flow with the universe and all that, and the difference between that and being in resistance and trying to make things happen with action, but like having a negative vibration while we do the action.
Effort.
Yeah, efforting.
Efforting.
Yes.
Yeah. Go for it.
Oh, I thought you were the one that said you wanted to talk.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, okay, I did. When you were talking about that in last week's episode, I was thinking about a friend had asked, we were getting together, and she's like, oh, let's go to the park and lie under a tree. And I'm like thinking, okay, because I'm used to when I get together with a girlfriend, like we'll meet at a coffee shop and have tea and just kind of hang out and chat. And oh my God, it was the best thing ever. Especially because that was at the beginning of the heat wave that San Diego just had.
Mm-hmm.
And this park, there were lots of beautiful trees, lots of shade, grass. Luckily I had a towel in my car, and we just laid out and sat under the tree. There were hummingbirds like hovering below the tree, and we just had the best time ever. I had a beverage with me, so me, I like to drink a lot of water and this and that. And when we were done, I felt like I do after I get a massage. I was in bliss. And I thought, I am adding that into my repertoire of self-care, and things to do with friends. But, talking about that effort and action, it kind of reminds me of when I turned 50, and I was so happy and so excited about all these things that I was going to do with my family and friends to celebrate my 50th. And in my joy for that 6 weeks prior to my birthday, I allowed in 3 clients, like organically, like, yes, 3. And it was awesome. And it got to show me, I experienced like, I don't have to effort in order to get something I want. That in my joy, I can attract things that I think that I have to do all this, take all of these actions. And that's the power of the vortex. It's already in there. I just have to have access to it and be an energetic match to it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the honest truth is, and this is a really great discussion because it's bringing my awareness to this thing that I've been aware of for a while, but I need to bring my awareness to it more often because it's something I'm really challenged by, which is checking in with my higher self or inner being or higher power source, whatever, however you want to think about that, as to what is the thing that would feel not necessarily like, it's not always like the most fun or the greatest or whatever, but like what feels right to do next. Mm-hmm. Like what honestly feels right to do next. And sometimes that will be something that is fun, or it's rest, or it's self-care or something like that. But sometimes it's hard stuff. Like sometimes it's, doing some financial paperwork I'm not crazy about doing. But if I really check in with myself and my higher self, it's like, oh, it's time to do that, you know?
Right.
Like it's time to do that. And I feel like a lot of my life, it's like I'm not checking in with that voice. I'm not checking in with how do I feel? Do I feel like I'm in flow? And therefore, let's make a decision about what to do from that point.
Right.
I got these two voices inside my head that I'm sure I just picked up from childhood or whatever, from listening to other people. And one of them is like, like a mean boss, and the other one is like, or maybe some people think about it like
It's a
the angel
critical
on
inner
one
parent.
shoulder, the demon on the other. It's sort of like the other voice is like, forget it. You don't need to worry about any of that.
Yeah.
And it's like super irresponsible, super doesn't want to ever do anything. And so I feel like a lot of my life, like to get myself to do things, it's like this battle in my head between this mean voice that's like trying to force me to do things and this like completely irresponsible, immature voice that doesn't want to do anything. And
Yes.
it's just those two negotiating. But anytime
Oh,
that
good
I
luck, right?
really get quiet and
Yeah.
check in, like, meditate or whatever and get like really quiet and go like, what's the thing that would feel
Mm-hmm.
right to do now?
Mm-hmm.
It's there. Like it's there. Like
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
like it's in computer programming or
I
something.
like
It's already
that.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the self-care thing. I think that's where that mature, healthy adult comes in, is that
Yeah.
connection to that source, that energy that we can't see but we feel. And I think that some of us feel connected to. Often we do those practices that help us do that. And when you were saying that, like you should, I have a friend who always says that critical inner parent.
Yeah.
In the last episode we were talking about inner child, but we
Yeah.
also have these, I think, inner parents too. And
Yeah.
and with the inner child work, I learned how to be like, oh, I can be like the inner parent and parent her and be the loving, kind, gentle parent that I always wanted as a kid but didn't have. And so it's my job as an adult now to step in that role and do that,
Yeah.
perfectly imperfect. Um, but yeah, and when you're talking about doing the hard things, I think sometimes for me, what I do is like I'll do the hard thing and then I'll be like, okay, I'm gonna go like chill for 15 minutes, or I'm gonna like draw or whatever. I'll go outside and sit in the swing and just kind of listen to some comedy or do something that is just the opposite of what I just had to do, and take a 10 or 5 minute break, whatever it may be. It kind of softens that, like, oh, I don't want to do this, but I need to.
Yeah. I think we've talked about that before. That there really is. It sounds like a big ask, and it is, but I don't think it necessarily has to be. That there's a way to make almost anything, maybe not super fun, but to
Doable.
to approach it with a good feeling. And that good feeling may just be coming from the thought of, I feel really good doing this because I'm taking really good care of myself. And it's not necessarily like, ooh, I'm having the time of my life, I'm partying, I'm having so much fun. But it's like, it's still a good feeling, like if you're doing some sort of self care thing,
Yeah.
and that you
Or
need to
maybe
do.
even not like a good feeling, but a better feeling than that.
Yeah,
Like, I
yeah,
don't want to do that, but
yeah,
okay.
yeah. But I think, I am driven crazy. Uh, Not as bad as I was in the past, but still, it happens where, because I just feel like, especially, there's this thing called hustle culture that's been happening in the last 5 or 10 years in America, at least, and it's just this sort of subculture that's on social media, the internet, and YouTube as well, of like people like trying to preach about how to be successful, and it's just all like, you've got to work harder, you've got to work harder, you've got to work harder. Like the whole secret to success is just hard work. Just like the less sleep you get, the more effort you put in, the more tired you are, the more successful
They
you'll
don't
be. And
really
it's
talk
like,
about what that looks like on the other end of that. The person's either depressed, doesn't have a healthy relationship,
or is
ends up,
drinking or using drugs to get
yeah,
through the
yeah,
difficulty of that.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
is
it's,
neglecting their family because they're working, 80 hours a
yeah,
week, and so they have no joy. but on the outside they look successful, but on the
Yeah.
inside they're, you know, and to each their own. Like, it's just
Well, not really though, because I mean, if you can find a way, like I understand, like as a musician, I've talked to you about this before. When I go into the recording studio to make an album, um, I have to be a different kind of careful because I'm so in the vortex. I'm having so much fun and I'm loving and the process and being so happy for so long. I do actually have to go out of my way a little bit to focus on self-care. Like I have to remember to eat. I have to remember to go home at a certain hour and like get some sleep to come back the next day because I'm having
Mhm.
so much fun. I'm just like my brain kind of is like, oh, we could do this forever, man. Like
Yeah,
we don't
yeah,
need we
yeah.
don't need sleep. We don't need to eat. And so I mean, I think that if you can if if I can be in a place where I've got a good feeling going, a good vibration going,
Mhm.
then that means that I can do a lot of things with passion, with fervor, with gusto, whatever you want to say,
Oh yeah.
over the course of the day. But nobody, I mean, to me, you know, my sister Kelly, who's been on the show before, you know, always tells me to put this disclaimer in, like, I am not a medical doctor. I did not go to medical school. However, I mean, to me, I think it's pretty obvious that human beings need sleep. Human beings need healthy food. Human beings need a certain amount of water on a certain time frame. Like those things, you know, they need rest. They need. They can't be going at a high stress level all the time. I mean, and there is this myth that you can either that you can do that and it'll all be fine, or that you can do it. There will be health consequences or mental health consequences or damage to your life consequences, but it'll be worth it because of the big payoff of success, money, fame, whatever, you know.
Or that that's the only way to get that.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
that isn't
Well,
true.
that's the
So,
other. That when people say, you know, you and I have talked about this before, but that's one of the quotes that drives me crazy. Is whenever anybody says something to the effect of the only way to be successful, at least in 2022 in the United States of America, is to work really, really hard at something. And I'm like, there are so many people who are just like living the. I mean, not everyone, but like there are people living the life who've done no work in their life whatsoever. You know, there are people
or
who.
they have done the work, but there's a balance to it. They have found a way to do what
But,
they love.
but I'm just thinking, yes, absolutely. But I'm just thinking, like, there are people who are born into wealth who did nothing and they're wealthy. And there are actually people that will go on like national television in the United States and say the only way you can make a lot of money in this world is to work really hard your whole life. And it's like that guy was born. That's how he got rich. And I'm not getting into the value judgment or anything around that. I'm just saying like obviously that's not. I get really bothered by things that are just clearly not true, but people say them like they're obviously true. And
Yeah,
like when
I
people
know.
say like the only way you can be financially successful in America is to work really hard all the time, it's
Right.
like clearly there are lots of people who are super wealthy that don't do that. So it's not that you shouldn't work hard from time to time. It's not that you shouldn't have a good work ethic or anything like that. It's just that working yourself to death is always going to have some sort of life or health consequence that you don't want, or both. And there are other ways to do it. And like we were talking about last week,
So let's talk about that. Let's
okay,
talk about this inspired action and being in alignment and attracting what you want.
mm-hmm.
How do you have stories of that?
About being in alignment.
Yeah, and then not knowing that you were going to get what you wanted because you were in alignment and then it happened.
I think maybe if you have an example, I would understand a little bit more what you're trying to get and go for here. Sorry.
Well, kind of like what I was saying about in my joy of the anticipation of celebrating my 50th birthday.
Mm-hmm.
Um all kinds of really cool stuff happened because I was in that higher vibration. And it wasn't
Oh
that
yeah,
I wasn't concerned because I did. I was like, I think I needed like $5,000 or something. It was some high amount. And
yeah.
and I was like, I don't. I had like close to half of that, and But then all this stuff happened that I didn't expect would, and it ended up being fabulous. And then attracting 3 clients. I wasn't promoting, I wasn't, trying to get out there and get clients. And actually these 3 people actually came to me. I was just living life and they approached me, and I just remember after each one I was like, huh, how'd that
Oh
happen?
yeah.
So like that. What's one of your stories
Oh
that
well, I mean, a lot of my music career has been like that. I mean, I remember when when I booked our first tour for my first real band in New York City, Victor Bravo. Um, I booked our first tour, and I had no idea what I was doing, and I think even my bandmate thought it was a little crazy. Certainly, all of our musician friends in New York thought we were crazy because like we were just in this weird. I mean, a lot of bands don't tour until they get a certain level of success, like they need to be signed or whatever before they feel comfortable going out and touring. And I just was like, I just want to go play around the country. I don't care.
oh my
Like
god,
I
that's
don't. I
so awesome.
honestly don't care how this happens. I'm just very impatient
Yeah.
about it because it's going to be so much fun.
We just
And
gotta
so
go do it.
another band that we knew, we weren't necessarily friends with them, but we'd done shows with them and stuff. We knew them. I was following them on social media, and they did a tour through the Midwest, and so I did this weird thing. I knew about it ahead of time. Like I saw the announcement before they left, and so I waited until the day that they were going to play to these venues in the Midwest. And the following day, I called that venue and said, "Oh, we're also a band. We have a similar music style to the band from New York that just played last night. Could we play at your place some other time when we go on tour?" And that, I mean, at that time in my life, that was just something I did not do. Something today I still like. There are phone calls I need to make that I'm like, that's
Dude,
very
that
uncomfortable.
is badass. That inspired action? Like, where
Yeah.
did that come
Well,
from?
that's what I think. That's the first example of me talking about it because it was just I didn't read a book about like, oh, here's how you tour or here's how you should book a tour or whatever. That was just like I wanted to tour. We were already performing and I was having a blast at the shows. I think we were driving up to Boston every now and then because we had some contacts up there. So we were already kind of like, doing like a one show tour essentially.
Yeah.
Um, but I just love that so much that I think my brain and my vibration were just like,
Yeah.
how can we do
Yeah.
more? How can we do more?
And you weren't
And
listening to the story of, well, you can't tour until da da
yeah,
da, like
that,
people's story.
I mean, honest, and this is the other thing about these things that people say, and I mean, I'm guilty of it too. I've probably even said
Oh
stuff to
heck
you,
yeah,
and
me too. I
you're
do it
like,
all the time. I'm like,
Collin, is that
yeah.
true? And I'm like,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
but I mean, I would have my musician friends in New York City tell me like, it's unless you're on a label or unless blah blah blah, like it's too
Yeah.
expensive.
Yeah.
People won't come to the show because they don't know who you are. Da 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 da. And it's just like my vibration was just in a different vibration than that.
And
It's
I
like,
think that's what is so
yeah,
badass, is to be so into the vortex, that higher vibration, that
yeah,
people can say stuff,
yeah,
like
and,
negative, and you're just like, it just bounces right off you because you're
yeah,
just like not even in that realm.
yeah,
I love that feeling. I've been there so many times
yeah,
and it's like super awesome.
yeah. So yeah, I mean, I wasn't thinking one day like, oh, how do we tour? I think I was in that vibration of like, I would love
You
to
were in
tour.
the
I want to
flow.
tour, and then
Yeah.
I just, I followed
Oh,
bands we knew and we were friends with on social media because I was
yeah.
trying to like do shit, book shows with them or just, go see the venue. Maybe they're playing a venue we've never played in New York, so I want to go check it out, see if we want to play there or whatever. And and then just one day I saw this band that we had seen them or played a show with them a month or two earlier, and they were very similar to our style, and that's why I remembered them. And then I was looking at social media and I like saw their tour schedule, and I was just like, that idea came into my head, and I feel like that's that was not, that was inspired action, because it's not
Wow.
like I was sitting down and being like, all right, we're gonna tour, and it's gonna be really hard, and
Well, and that vibration that you're mimicking right now is a low frequency and it's not
yeah.
an allowing vibration. So,
No, yeah, and
it's a very
that
resistant
led to,
vibration.
but that tour led to, I mean, I think we did 3 tours through the Midwest during the lifetime of that band, and every tour led to the next. Like every, uh, maybe not every single show, but most shows that we played, we met someone in that city.
So the momentum kept
Yeah,
building.
yeah, yeah. And I mean, we did 4. I mean, the first tour was 5 shows. I think we just did 5 shows, and then the last one was, I think, 11 or 12 or something like that. So we doubled it by the third run, and all of that was just making contacts. And again, it wasn't like, oh, we're going to play this place in Cleveland and we got to make sure that we meet another band there so that we get, but whatever. I mean, we definitely had that in our minds, but I mean, as a
And
possibility. But every contact that we made was just out of the joy of playing, and then seeing the joy of some other band playing, and then
yeah.
just talking, and then them like, hey, I remember the biggest show that Victor Bravo ever played surprised the heck out of us. It was the final show. I think it might have been on our final tour. Um, we played Dayton, Ohio, and the reason we got that show was because we had played Athens, Ohio, which is a college town near Columbus, and we met this band from Dayton. They had traveled down from Dayton to Athens, and we had been on tour, from New York, and we really liked the band from Dayton. And they said, "Oh, you guys want to play Dayton sometime?" I'm like, "Sure." Next tour we'll see if it works out. And my bandmate and I were talking, and we're like, we'll play Dayton, because we were just taking every opportunity we could. But we were just like, we had a lot of experience at that point, and we were like, yeah, there's not going to be anybody at that show, because we just felt like the energy of the band. They were great. We love their music. We love them as people. But we're like, they don't have a lot of fans. Like, we're going to go to Dayton and play for their 10 fans. And whatever, that's what we'll do. We've done that before in other places. And, man, I'll never forget. We rolled into the street that the bar was on in Dayton. And I thought we had the wrong place at first, because it was full. It was full. And I was like, oh my God, like, they have a huge following in Dayton, and they did. They had a huge following in Dayton, and we were like, oh, we completely misjudged them. Because you can't really get, like, you talk to at that time, like, we talked to bands, and it's like, how are you doing? And it's like, it's all just vagary. We're just like, oh, we're doing all right. Like, that could mean we have 20 people to show, we have 200, 2,000, like, everybody's got different, standards or whatever. So, like, this place was packed, and then we were like, we've been through this thing before where we've been the opening band because we're the out of town band, and the place has a lot of people in it, and then but by the time we get up to play and start the show, everybody's gone for their smoke break or whatever. They're waiting for the headliner before they come back. So we're playing to like 6 people, and then 200 people come in later. So we're like, oh man, okay, it's gonna be like that. Like, it's packed, but they're all gonna leave and then come.
Yeah.
And every single one of them stayed. Like, nobody left the building.
Wow.
And we were like, and we played for, that was our first, it was a smaller venue, so I don't know if we can say we sold out, but I mean, there was no room to move in that place.
Wow.
And that, to me, again, we didn't set out and say, well, how can we book a show in Dayton, Ohio, and make sure that the band has a good following, and da 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 da. It was just like, we were just in the energy of like, we just show up and play, man. Like, we love
So
this.
when you first started your story, you were like, I was doing what I love. I was playing in
Yeah,
front of people. So you were in a better feeling state.
yeah,
And then because you kept doing it, you built momentum.
yeah,
And that's what I was going to say with my story about my 50th. It was like, it wasn't that I was in this total blissful state the whole time. I had some negative emotion. Like, I had some worry thoughts, like, how am I going to come up with the other half of this money? Like, blah 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 blah. But
yeah,
because my joy was greater than my doubt and fear and negative thoughts, it overrid it all, and then this all these cool things happen, and I'm going to call myself out. I remember after the third person hired me, I remember thinking, how am I going to do this again? Like,
Yeah.
I was thinking I was doing it. Like, it was all me. And I freaked myself out because I'm like, I can't do this. Like, blah, 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 blah. And all these negative thoughts came in, and I didn't do it again. Like, that was, it stopped the momentum. But, um,
I just think that's so widespread, that phenomenon. And you talked earlier about, I don't know if it was last week or this week, about being sad because some people don't go do what they want. I mean, I just think that is so rampant, and I understand it. Like, I understand why, but so many people, even if they have a little success, they stop doing what they really love doing because they're afraid of this future scenario where they're going to be expected to deliver something more than what they've already delivered.
yeah.
And they're viewing it from, oh, and everybody thinks that I just did this thing before, so I'm going to have to do that bigger thing. And I don't think I can pull that off, so everybody's going to be disappointed. I'm going to be embarrassed or humiliated or look like a failure or a fool or whatever. And like, so many people like don't follow their dreams, don't do things they want in life because, like, not because like it's impossible, but they're just like, they don't want to be under that like imagined state of pressure to deliver something, thinking, well, if I'm the only person that can deliver that, I'm not good enough or strong enough or powerful enough or smart enough or talented enough, whatever, to do that all by myself. And it's like, I just want to like hug all of those people and myself when I get in that mode of thinking,
right.
and just say, you don't have to do it. Like, if you just become a channel for higher powers magic, the universe's magic, like, you can do stuff that you never would imagine.
Yeah. And when you were saying that at the end, I was thinking about when Kelly has come on and she said, fear isn't information.
Yeah, I love that. I love
I
that.
know, right?
Because so many of us, and I'm so guilty of that sometimes too, still, like, we
Oh,
treat
I
it as
wrote
if
it
it is.
down. I wrote it down and put it next to my bed because
We
at the
treat it
time
as
I
if
was
it
like,
is.
yeah,
And
because I
I mean,
didn't.
I will hear people. I'll hear myself too. I'll definitely hear other people also. I'll ask somebody sometimes, like, if somebody tells me like, oh, I was a really big, I was loved doing this thing in high school and I was really good at it and whatever, and then I completely stopped, and I'll ask them why, and basically their answer is just the fear explanation, but they present it to me as if it's information, like, oh, this really scary thing could have happened down the line, so I quit.
Mm.
And it sounds like this smart, logical thing that they did to protect themselves against this big bad thing in the future, but it's like, oh, that's just that, but those weren't facts. That's just
Yeah.
something your imagination conjured up
Well, and
to
that's
scare
that
you.
whole lizard brain thing again, too,
Yeah,
right? Trying to protect us from
yeah.
imagined fear or detriment or this horrible thing that could possibly happen.
Here's the thing too, because so I told the really great story of us getting to Dayton, Ohio, in the packed
Yeah.
house. Everybody
Yeah.
stays, and we have
Yeah.
this amazing
Yeah.
night. I mean, we had another time I remember very clearly, and we played this place called Fat Baby, which was one of our favorite places. I think it closed.
Cool
I know,
name.
it's a great name, right? It was a
I love
great
that.
place. It was on the Lower East Side and in Manhattan, and we loved playing there. And we booked a show. I think it was a Sunday night, which is not a great night for a show, but actually in New York it's usually not too bad because a lot of people can't do weeknights, but they can do like weird nights like Sunday. So we promoted the show as we always did, and when we work with a booker, they do expect us to bring some people. And no, like, literally, it was me, my drummer, and my drummer's girlfriend, and that was it. As New York City, there's 10 million people, and like, we brought our drummer's girlfriend. That was it. And I think, and the sound guy, who loved us, by the way. It was really cool. So that's that. If somebody's like has a dream of being in a rock band, right, and they're thinking of pursuing that, that's the nightmare scenario, right? It's one part of it, which is, what if I write songs and work really hard and rehearse and make an album and all this stuff, and I go to play a show, and the only person that comes is my bandmate's girlfriend and the sound guy. Like, what? And people will quit on a whole, or not even start a whole dream because of looking at that image in their mind. Well, here's what happened that night. We had a freaking blast. Like, the booker was not thrilled with us, but we had done other shows with him where we brought people, so he knew we weren't, like, you know, incapable of bringing people. He was like, it was a Sunday night, it was a weird night, whatever. The sound guy, who was a musician himself also, and does nothing but watch 4 bands a night, you know, 7 days a week, whatever, came up to us and just was like, you guys were amazing. I was so blown away by that show. He's like, I just ignore a lot of bands because they don't excite me. Like, you guys were so amazing. And, like, it was literally 4 of us in a bar, and we had a blast. Yeah. So, like, and that would be my worst nightmare, too. If I was in my negative thinking about it, it's like, oh, what's my worst nightmare? It's like, oh, that's it. Like, that's it. Yeah. And I still had a blast. Like, nobody died. Nobody went broke. Yeah. The dream wasn't dead. We had tons of shows after that where lots of people came. Like, it's like that whole fear is not information thing. It's just so huge.
So basically, do what you love for the love of it. Just do what you love for the love of it.
Yeah, and I think, you know, to your point from the very beginning, it's like this illusion that your effort is required. Just try to practice letting go of that.
Yeah. Just show up.
Just show up and let go. Like, show up and let go. Like, your effort is not the driver. It's not the important part of the equation. You know, it's a component sometimes, but the far more important thing is just be in the flow. Think good thoughts. Be feeling good feelings. Yeah. All right. That feels like a natural stopping point right there. So we hope you got something out of that. I know I did, but we hope you did too. We're so happy that you joined us today by listening or watching. Please remember that we are posting a brand new episode for you every single Monday morning at this point. We truly appreciate you doing whatever your platform allows you to do to support the podcast, liking us, following us, subscribing to us, leaving us a comment, and writing us a review. All of those things help other people find the podcast. All our social media links and our email address are in the description in the YouTube version of this episode, in the description down below. We wish you a happy and abundant week where you are in the flow and have to effort very little or not at all. And we look forward to you joining us again on the very next episode of Co-Creation Station. Bye, everybody.
Bye.